All right, so in the last video, we talked about chapter 1 of Alua's book, So You Want to Talk About Race, of establishing, are the things we're looking at really about race? And now we want to dive into chapter 12, which is about microaggressions. Alua paints some very beautiful pictures of what does it look like to see a microaggression, how does that impact someone, how can we move past that to be a better ally? So microaggressions, if you're unfamiliar, are small daily insults and indignities perpetrated against marginalized or oppressed groups because of their affiliation with that marginalized or oppressed group. So essentially, something that can happen at any time. They're often small, hence the word micro, and cumulative. They can happen in a multiple built up kind of way, and they can happen by anyone. So not necessarily one group against the other. They can be perpetrated by many different people. And oftentimes people don't even know when they may be executing a microaggression. So here's a wonderful illustration that helps to unpack this. Just like one random bee sting might not be a big deal, a few random bee stings every day of your life will have a definite impact on the quality of your life and your overall relationship with bees. So Alua paints this picture of microaggressions being similar to a bee sting. You don't necessarily know when it can happen. It can be random. You don't know where you might be, what context you might be in your life, and you never know how big that reaction might actually be.
Yeah. And again, we always are trying to bring this back to that compassion spectrum. So the practical application with the sympathy piece. Let's say you're in a group and people are talking with sympathy, you would notice like, that person seems uncomfortable now, or there's some tension. I can see that something that was said did not sit right with them. But again, sympathy is just recognizing it. And then looking at that empathy piece, it's saying, oh, okay, I noticed that they were offended by something, or that something, their demeanor changed, and it was related to this comment. So that's either checking in with them later or recognizing like, hey, something's going on and I want to make sure that I can understand where that comment came from and why that person had such a reaction. And then that third piece, the compassion part, is really taking action. Then it's taking your understanding of why what was said made someone feel uncomfortable and trying to prevent it in the future. So again, that can look two different ways. You overall want to follow that person of color's lead. So you can check in with them afterward and say, hey, I noticed that this happened and that doesn't stand by me. I want to see in the future if there's something we can do about it. Would you like me to say something in the moment? Would you like to say something? You're checking with them. Or you can also pull the other person aside who maybe said the comment and say, hey, like this, I don't know if you noticed, but this made someone feel really uncomfortable. How can we reword that or express that same idea, but in a different way in the future? And that way you're taking your understanding to that next piece and taking action to prevent it in the future.
Exactly. And so the reason why we want to elaborate on microaggressions, it's a very simple way to go from that recognition to understanding, right? You need to take time to learn, what do these look like? How can I adjust my language and adjust my actions to make sure I'm being inclusive to everyone in a situation, and that I'm thinking intentionally about the words that are coming out of my mouth and the things that I support in my day-to-day. And then that allows you to move into that place of empathetic allyship. You're understanding that words can do damage just as much as your actions can. And being able to be aware also allows you to be accountable to others and create a space for a learning opportunity.